You are listening to Claret and Blue, an Aston Villa podcast brought to you by Birmingham Live.
Hello and welcome to this live episode of the Claret and Blue podcast. I'm Dan Reynolds and I'm joined by James Rushton. First of all, James, how are you dealing with this heat? Because it's boiling in here.
Not very well, if I'm honest. I'm done. God, can't even have my window open because we want the best quality recording environment. So it's really hot in here. It's bearable. It's fine. I'm not going to moan too much.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'll never complain about being cold again. Let's just put it that way. We don't have the budget for hair and makeup either, so we've all got pink, sweaty foreheads and sweaty hands as well, which isn't nice. But yes, we've got a few topics we're going to talk about. We're going to be here for the next half an hour, 45 minutes or so. So you can ask your questions to us, but hopefully we're going to be kind of proactive and cover some of the things that you want discussed anyway. One question that I put to Facebook earlier this week was what would you call a successful season for Dean Smith and Villa next year? So I want to open with that really, because that sparked quite a lot of debate on Facebook, and I'm hoping that people will get involved in the conversation now as well. So we'll use that as a springboard. James, what would you say would be success for Villa next season? I know it's early because of transfers have to happen and things like that, but we've got to have some kind of predictions.
Anything that isn't like relegation confirmed or denied on the last day, if we can kind of get that done with a few weeks early, I'd see that as a massive success. Mid-table, I've just seen a comment come up. Mid-table, perfectly acceptable. Let's get it done, but let's get this relegation conversation out of the way in a good way by, say, early March.
Yeah.
Villa can't go down. I'd love that. I don't know, is that possible? For most of them, I think you have to be like the best up the top of the table. But if we can be outside of that scrap by a good few weeks before the season closes, by the standards we set last season, that would be massively successful for me. Just keep building on the pitch improvements, be solid at the back, kind of find that threat up front. I guess find that attacking might, because that was one of the highlights at the start of the season. We probably didn't do the best with the players we had or the chances we had. But to have some excitement up front would be a massive positive. Just keep the stability, keep the plan going forward. And it seems like the club's on a really nice path at the moment with the Joanne Lange hire, the Rob McKenzie hire. It just seems like they're making smart moves. So the smartest move to me, Craig Shakespeare as well, the smartest move would be get that stability, but wring a little bit more positivity out of it. Let's have a good season.
Yeah, I think there's probably a little bit of nuance to be had between the difference between a successful season and kind of an acceptable season. Because as of right now, I think if you just said Villa will finish 17th again next year, as much as staying in the Premier League is part of what Villa need to do to build some kind of consistency, I don't know whether I'd call that successful at this point, especially because there's a lot of transfers to happen and things like that. Just aiming for 17th wouldn't be successful. I would say that's more acceptable. That should be the minimum target for Villa. I think a successful season is like what a lot of people are saying in the comments here, kind of mid-table and a cup run, top 10 and a cup run, not being in a relegation fight. I think any kind of measure of success would be that it has to be an improvement on last year. So if you're 13th and above and you do well in the cups as well, and like you said, you're kind of comfortable all the way throughout the season, that would be a successful season for Villa right now. Obviously other people watching this that might not be Villa fans will be thinking 13th place in the Premier League is successful, like winning trophies is success, but baby steps, right?
Yeah, I think, like, say if it was last season and the Premier League season finished exactly the same, you have to rely on things going your way. You kind of have that mucky goal at West Ham 1-1 and you still survive. But if you added in that Villa beat Manchester City in the Carabao Cup final, what does that make this more? Would that make last season more successful than, say, nothing and 15th but comfortable next season? It's hard, but I think Villa fans just want to see positive signs without looking over their shoulder constantly. I think we've had a number of seasons where even in the playoffs, it's like you're looking at the teams behind you, you're constantly calculating what other teams are doing. Not next season. Nah, not for me. Anything but that next season, that'd be fine.
I think there was a podcast that me and Matt did where we looked at Southampton as the model, whereas it was something like they'd only scored 10 more goals than us and only conceded 10 less or something like that. So, not a massive margin, but they finished like 17 points better off than us. They were comfortably in the mid 50s, I think. And this is without checking the actual the facts of it as usual
Claret
on this podcast.
Blue, trademark.
But you know what I mean? We're not a million miles away from being able to finish 12th or 13th and be comfortable in the Premier League. So that would be a success. And I think, like you say, if you're comfortable around February, March and thinking, there's very little chance of us having a collapse and going down here, you want to go as far as you can in the cups as well. Let's win a trophy for once. Let's win our first major trophy for 20 years, 25 years. That'd be lovely.
Yeah, I think that would have been a good one. That League Cup last year, that was a massive opportunity for Villa, just to kind of get that update the dates on the League Cup record. You know what I mean? That would have been nice. But we got to look forward to. We got a season to look forward to now, and like after the events of last season, this is one where you're looking forward to a bit. No matter what happens in the transfer window, there's reason to be a bit more excited. The excitement last season was pretty big, but I think this season it's a whole new ball game. Villa shouldn't be in this relegation conversation. They shouldn't. Not next season.
Yeah, there's a comment here saying we should be proud of the Midlands of finishing above Wolves and Albion. And if we finish above Wolves, I think we'll be having a very, very successful season. So I'd still expect them to be in the top 8 at least next year. So if we finish in the top 7 or above, Tony Adams, I'll personally give you a tenner, maybe.
Tony Adams knows his football as well, don't he?
Yeah, I wonder if it's the same
name
one.
for understanding everything. Yeah, it's gotta be watching Aston Villa podcast live. I don't know why he'd be doing that. There you go.
If we, like you said before, if we did finish 17th and it was a struggle again next season, would you still accept that? Is that still okay?
I don't know what kind of yardstick you use to define what's acceptable or not. I mean, if the plan is clearly going in a good place, but then would it be going in a good place if it's exactly the same again? If the plan that they've set in place with the positive hires they've made behind the scenes, stuff they're doing at academy level, it might take years for like the fruit to bear from this plan. You know what I mean? Can we judge it on a good or bad season this season when seasons are so dynamic? I don't know, but hopefully we're not even having that conversation. I wouldn't want to consider that because it's something that will cause massive friction. Like, can Villa go down and be successful? Obviously not. Like that can't be true. Yeah. But if they're moving in general in the right direction, that's cool. For me, that's cool. But I guess it wouldn't be, going down, tanking again, and having that whole conversation. We don't need. That's a nightmare. Let's not even go there.
Yeah, it's. I just don't want a season like the one we've just had. Like I said at the start of this, being in the Premier League is where you need to be to kind of mount any kind of success over a long period of time. So if we were starting the Premier League in the 2021-22 season again, then yes, absolutely, you have to be happy with that. But if it's a struggle and you survive and you start losing players and things like that, then yes, that's a different story. But enough of the negativity. One thing actually before we move on, are you at the stage
one
yet?
Negative thing.
No. Just a random point that I've seen from the way people are typing their comments. Are you at the point where you're now calling the 2020-2021 season this season? Or is it still next season? I can't get my head around which it is yet.
Until that season starts, it's next season, and because our last season's finished, it's last season. So
we're in between. So it's last season.
There is no this season. There's no this season unless you're referring by this season, last season.
See, I would say where are Villa going to finish this season? But it's next season, isn't it? Still, really, even though next season sounds like it should be the year after. There's a comment here from a guy I'm not going to be able to pronounce, but I'll give it a go. Himant Katana. Probably wrong. He says, when will the fixtures be released? Is there an official date for this yet? Do we know? Because the season kicks off in 20 days or something.
Yeah, I assume it'll be soon, but I feel like it has to take into consideration like the clubs playing in Europe. I think it's just Manchester United and Man City, right?
Yeah,
so
I think so.
Because I was going to say Chelsea and Wolves, but unfortunately, both knocked out. But yeah, I think it has to take into consideration where they end up because they'll have like 12 days, 12, 15 days
a weird season,
from the last game to the next game, which is crazy. But it's got to be soon. Like, it's going to happen. I think people are always asking when the fixture's coming out. Like the kit, it's like the kit. When's the kit coming out? It comes out. It can't not come out. So yeah, it'll be soon. It's going to happen, obviously.
And this is one of those totally arbitrary questions that a bit like, is a kit good or not? And it's a bit like, why are we talking about this? It doesn't seem important. Is there a fixture that you'd like to start the season with? Is there anyone you look at and think, that'd be a nice start to the Premier League? Or anyone you'd like to avoid?
I don't want to play Man U on the first day. Man City, Man U, Arsenal, Liverpool, Chelsea. Any big team on the first day, basically.
Avoid anyone good, yeah.
Good games would be any derby, so you... Wolves,
you won't start on a derby, I wouldn't have thought.
No, more of a rivalry, I guess, than a straight, flat-out derby. But West Brom would be grand. Leeds would be fun. Newcastle. Anywhere there's a bit of friction, a bit of needle, even if it's not a rivalry or derby, just something where the fans won't even be there. What am I saying?
That's literally my next point was going to be, I'd love to start with a home game, but home and away doesn't matter. Doesn't matter, does it really? We still don't know what will happen with fans being allowed back in the stadium.
What would make Villa versus Leeds special is just like how on form those fans would be.
Oh, can you imagine the atmosphere between those two?
That would be brutal. And I think like like whatever happens, it'll just be electric. And I feel like as a fan, like as someone that is looking very much forward to going back to Villa Park. I remember Villa versus Man U when it was on the first Friday night game. And that was like electric. It was like the Everton, a bit lower down than the Everton one this season. But it's just I want to hear that again. I want my ears to split from fans singing. Like, that's important to me, man.
I think it's probably about time, 10 minutes in, the thing everyone's been waiting for, transfer talk. I'm going to put my personal opinion across here first of all. I don't really understand the massive kind of clamour for transfer dues. I don't know, that probably makes me the odd one out, but I don't really get any enjoyment of scouting through websites and looking for little bits of information. But I know that's what the world is like, so we have to go and talk about these different things. But the way that these things work is that they often change last minute, don't they? You can be linked with a player, they can be booking medicals and all sorts, and things still don't go through. So I'm always one of those ones that kind of likes to wait a little bit until I see them holding a scarf up or holding the shirt up or whatever it is. But we'll talk about the latest news first. The big one that seems to be kind of gaining any kind of traction before any others is Ollie Watkins. Now, in the transfer video that you and me did, we made a big talk about Benrahma and then a little bit about Watkins, but because they were both
changes, right?
I know, yeah,
switches around.
Because they're both with Brentford, and it was whether they go up or stay down has a bearing on whether they're there or not. Obviously, we all know now that Brentford are in the Championship next season. There was talk about having a release clause for Ollie Watkins of 18 million. I think that's now been proved to be false, and Brentford want 20 to 25 million. The latest yesterday was Sky Sports News saying that Villa are preparing a bid, whatever that means. I don't know how you prepare a bid. Surely you just bid and make an offer. But is there any developments on Ollie Watkins? I know there's a few clubs that seem interested in him now.
Not really, other than that Dean Smith clearly wants him to be part of the team. There's nothing major going on. And I feel like the biggest thing you can say about this current transfer window is it's clearly not like any others, because you look at a free transfer, one of the biggest free agents available is Ryan Fraser, who has moved nowhere. Like he's not holding up a scarf or a shirt. He's available, and no one's went in for him. The moves that have happened.
Is that something about the player though, rather than the transfer window?
Possibly, but like you see the moves that have happened, the things that were very clearly kind of organised a while before, like Callum O'Hare to Coventry, very clearly
Bellingham to Dortmund
going to happen. Yeah, and Bellingham to Dortmund has been going on for ages. Stuff that's happened, even in the mega deals, like have Manchester United bought Jadon Sancho. Yeah, all this stuff is just existing, and no club is really making that move, because I think if Villa went in straight now, 25 million for Ollie Watkins, does that set the bar then? Does that set the bar that Villa are the only club that going to spend money, so if Villa want to play, a club can ask more?
I think someone has to set the ball rolling, don't they? There's usually a bit of a domino effect with transfers, that somebody will make a move and then a few others will move elsewhere. For example, if Benrahma is linked with Chelsea or Arsenal or someone like that and he makes a big move, that will then kind of set a chain of events after the fact. So someone needs to make a big move somewhere for that to kind of kick off. The thing I've seen with Watkins a lot is fans kind of suggesting, will he be the main striker that we sign? Will he be the only one? Because that seems to be a bit of a concern, that yes, he scored goals in the Championship, but is he going to come in for 18 to 20 million and start every game for Villa next year and be able to score the goals that we require?
Yeah, I think the important thing about Ollie Watkins is that he can play up front and on the wing, which is, of course, massively. That versatility is massively important to Villa. Because if you're spending £25 million on Ollie Watkins, he doesn't necessarily have to be that main striker. He can be that main winger as well.
Yeah.
I think that's quite ignored. He's a very good striker and he's clearly improving, but he can play on the wing as well, which is a boon for Villa, because that means instead of saying £50 million for both Benrahma and Ollie Watkins, which is amazing, I'd do that. I'd love that to happen. You can kind of get 2 for 1 with Watkins, and then look elsewhere if you want another main striker or another main winger, because you've got a guy brought in for kind of, if you consider him 2 players, 12.5 million each for kind of the winger and the striker. It's a no-brainer. And if you put in so much faith in your current squad of like Wesley, Davis and Samatta, bringing Watkins in gives them a kick up the backside to kind of improve. It lets Wesley have a space if he's comfortable when he returns, and hopefully firing fit. But also it lets Villa go, hang on, do we need another striker? Do we need another winger? It gives them options to consider. It lets them move in for another striker. It lets them move in for another winger. So if Watkins comes in, I don't see him being the only one up front.
Yeah, agreed.
At all.
I think you're probably looking at a combination of Wesley, probably Watkins, and this is, I must state with no insider information, but he seems to be the most progressed out of all the rumours. Wesley, Watkins, and then one other, and then you'd have Wesley and or the other striker playing up front, and Watkins maybe on the right hand side with Grealish on the left, or another winger, or whatever you go for. Who that third striker then is, I'm not sure. One that's been talked about, another WWW up front, Callum Wilson, with a link of Scott Hogan going the other way, which I've seen a lot of kind of banter on social media of kind of 10 million and Hogan, and that's a good deal for Villa, more so than it is for Bournemouth, because it gets Hogan off the books as well. Is he one that you think is one worth chasing, Wilson and Watkins as a duo?
Yeah, I mean, it's very easy in a transfer window to say I'll be fairly happy with that, and then Watkins and Wilson don't score for like 6-7 games.
No negativity on this podcast, mate.
No, which is like proper Villa. But like, if you were to ask me right now, Watkins and Wilson, a gamble on the wing for another winger who can be kind of explosive, score goals, an improvement in midfield as well, maybe an addition at the back. I'll be happy with that. Callum Wilson clearly has what it takes in the Premier League. Ollie Watkins has a lot to prove, and he's done the job in the Championship. There's no reason he shouldn't be able to kind of step up that level now.
Yeah,
I'd be fairly happy with that, because you need to move Hogan on as well, right? Like he has to go.
He will leave, I think.
Not just because of a negative stance. It's like he's not going to get in at Villa. Like, this is the guy who can clearly cut it at the Championship, and he deserves that chance to impress and kick on. Like, he should be willing to move, and I feel like Villa should, if that move's there, they should take it, regardless of whether Wilson's involved or not. If there's a path to get to sell Hogan and move on, I think that works best for everyone, to be honest.
Yeah, there's a rumour here that it's not on my notes, but I did want to mention, because I saw it a couple of days ago from Lorna. She says, he, I don't even know, I can't see the pictures, I'm not guessing, by the way. I can't see the close-ups from so far away. What's your opinion on Benteke? Apparently 8 million is what would be required for getting him away from Crystal Palace. This is a romantic choice, isn't it? Bring back Benteke. I'm not 100% convinced, but you do think, 8 million, is it worth it? He's on a lot of wages.
Yeah, like, you've got to consider the wages as well. I mean, if you're bringing in the player that doesn't fit inside Villa's wage structure on 110 grand a week or whatever, you know what I mean? If he's going to take a wage cut, which he could possibly do, but he's clearly going to be starting games at Palace. He starts there in fits and bursts for them. He's a rotation player for him. If he's coming in Villa to be the main guy, I mean, in 2016, that would be amazing. In 2020, I'm not so sure. Yeah. I feel like the club should look in a different direction. I mean, it's 8 million sounds cheap when you consider the whole package. The opportunity cost, that takes 8 million away from a better winger, a better striker even. If it's taking 8 million out of another potential deal and a massive wage package, I'm not with it, Dan.
If that's the difference between signing an okay 20 million striker and Benteke, or a big name 30 million striker, then you'd prefer to go for the second choice there.
Yeah, like Benteke, as you know, like as we've experienced, really, it's like Grealish in a way, where Grealish can thrive without that crowd. Benteke needs it. He needs the people backing him vocally, because he evolves during a game. You know, when people roar him on, he will start barging people down and he will get involved, but he can shrink a lot. You know, despite like the attitude he has, the physicality he has, he can shrink. He needs that confidence backing him, and I fail to see how that will happen behind closed doors. Yeah,
and I think if we remember the Benteke that we saw, I keep going between Benteke and Benteke. I can never decide which one I prefer. The Benteke that we saw at Villa Park a few weeks ago, not really doing anything, then getting sent off after the full-time whistle. If that was a Villa player that had done that, if that was Wesley that had done that, I think there'd be a lot of people slating him, going, what do we want this guy for? So to kind of bring Benteke home for 8 million, I like the idea of it, but I think it's, like you said, one for 2016, not 2020. Roger Holder says, why are you assuming Wesley will be ready to be chosen anytime soon? He may not even be fit until Christmas, if at all, next season. I don't know what the latest is with Wesley's injury. I know that he was obviously doing a lot of work in Brazil during the lockdown. When football came back, he came back as well. There was pictures of him in the celebrations at West Ham on the final day. He was walking around. Do we know what the timescale is yet? Is it Christmas? I assumed it would be closer than that.
I think the original timescale for kind of the type of injury he had, and this was going back a few months to when it actually occurred, was
January,
October.
Wasn't it? New Year's Day.
So January.
9 months, 10 months.
Yeah, October odd, and that's not too far away, but there's still a decent bit of time for recovery work to take place. Assuming that's still on, I mean, would clearly be, if my striker's coming back in October, it'd clearly be part of the plans. I don't see why that would change. I mean, he's been linked to Lazio, but I feel like from my own experience of covering Italian clubs, there's a lot that goes around with these Italian clubs, right? In that they will just float loads of names because there's a guy they want in this pack of names that they'll send out. And say in Lazio's case, that's Vedat Marici. They'll just say, right, we'll bid Wesley for 30 million because he's injured and no one wants him. They lower your price on Marici, or we'll go for this guy. There's stuff like that that's sent out. Like, he's on the radar of teams. He's still capable. He'll come back hopefully in October, fit and firing to go. It's a serious injury he's had, so we'll have to wait and see. But the original prognosis is October. I can't see how that's changed much from what I've seen. He doesn't seem to have suffered any major setbacks, but then will setbacks be revealed? They usually aren't, so we'll have to wait and see.
Another one on the list was Milo Rashica, who we talked about in our last week's podcast episode. He was left out of Werder Bremen's squad at some stage since that last episode, saying that there's a possible transfer happening with him somewhere. Head's not in it, all the usual cliches. He's linked with us. He's linked with Wolves as well. I think he possibly was linked with Leicester, unless I'm getting confused with somebody else. Is there any chance of this one progressing with Villa, or is a kind of a Wolves or Leicester, I was going to say a bigger club, but you know what I mean, someone who can offer European football potentially, are they going to come in and swoop in for this one, sorry.
Yeah, it's not like you consider them bigger. It's that they're a few steps ahead in their plan. Of Villa, they've got more money to spend. Their wage structure will progress. Wolves, there's clearly space in that. That's clearly the type of player that they want. Linked to Liverpool, Leipzig, Dortmund. I don't feel like Villa, they would have to offer a hell of a lot to bring him Rashica in. They have to give him the starting role, which he will get. He'll get that starting role. The way he structured the money, there's better opportunities on offer for him. Unfortunately, to me, speaking as a Villa fan, he would be a great signing. But I feel like if there's these opportunities, he'll have to do a Veretout and kind of turn down Leicester and gun for Villa, which is of course possible. It's not negativity saying that. It's more so realism in that he can stay in his home country, the country he's currently playing in. Sorry, because he's Kosovan, so he can stay in Germany and play for a team that's clearly progressing in Leipzig or a giant in Dortmund, or we can move to England where Liverpool have been interested. There's interest from Leicester and Wolves. So I feel like there's a lot of options there. So it's not just that Villa shrinking those options, it's just that there is a number of them as well that he's got to pick, and I think there's a few more that might just be a little more attractive to him.
But
that being said, there was a photo.
There you go. What about this exciting little photo that Marvelous Nakamba dropped yesterday? Throwback Thursday with my bro Milo Rashica. He commented underneath my brother, and I think Ali Samata also commented an emoji underneath it or something, fueling fire. Villa fans saying, "Oh, why post that? What, does he know something's going on?"
I don't like kind of raining on anyone's parade. I don't want raining on any parade, but footballers as a community, it's a close-knit community. So most footballers will know each other and be friends and hang out and speak, especially if you've been playing in the same countries. Yeah. So, it's like James Maddison and Jack Grealish hang out all the time. Does that mean Jack Grealish is going to Leicester? No, it doesn't. It doesn't necessarily mean anything at all. But look, Villa fans, we love to dream, we love to hope, we love speculation. Why not? Just jump aboard the ride until Rashica's holding up that Wolves scarf. Why not? Jump aboard.
Just as we're live, obviously, there's a little bit of talk on Twitter right now saying that Ollie Watkins has been spotted at the Belfry.
How many people have been spotted at the Belfry over the last few years? Let's get it straight, right?
Again, maybe he's just there to play around the golf, but it's it's one of those, isn't it? If he's there, great. Just because he is there doesn't mean a deal will get done.
Yeah, let's not forget Dan James was holding up league shirts, and Joe Bryan had the kit on, the Villa kit on, and then
Adam Boyle had a tour of Bodymore Heath at one stage.
Yeah. So these, things you can get an offer on the table ready to sign it. Then something happens. So until that player is holding. And look, what was the player? Was it Leroy Fer? And there was a big rumor about him. Done deal. Complete done deal. You have the best possible kind of source telling you done deal. You write up a post saying done deal, and it's it's off the cards now. Here's Tom Carroll. So these things happen until he's holding up a scarf, until he's registered with the team, until both teams have agreed and confirmed it. It's not for me. There's no kind of strength in it, especially after the things that have happened to this club over the last few years. But look, again, like we said about Rashica in the photo, speculation, jump aboard. Why not? It's fun.
And also, let's just state that this is just a tweet saying Watkins spotted there. There's no picture of it. There's no video of it. It's just apparently he's at Bodymore Heath with the Belfry with some Villa staff. Again, anyone could tweet things like that. Let's just say, before we get called negative in the comments like we usually do, I would love this move to happen. I think this is one of the ones that Villa should definitely be after. It's one of the ones that felt realistic from that massive list that we went through. Like you said, he can play up front, he can play on the right. If you can sign 20 million Ollie Watkins and he still plays in the first team alongside another big name striker as well. So it feels like one of those ones that makes a lot of sense for Villa. So yeah, let's hope that there's some truth in it. I'm not going to get carried away with tweets saying he's at XYZ place.
Well, if you're going on about that tweet, another one's just come out 2 minutes ago saying, I don't want to say that Watkins' girlfriend's posted a video of him and a story of them both sunbathing. So unless there's, it's hot enough at Belfry to sunbathe right now. But I think there's a comment that's come up. Jackson, you let me dream. I feel like that's the key to speculation. Just having fun, like this every scene. Just have fun with it. I mean, it's your dream team, and what Villa sign are going to be completely different because their plans are kind of their plans and kind of kept away from everyone. Of course, they don't want to reveal anything or reveal any cards because this transfer window, as we said, relies on that first stone being rolled right, because then it's going to be chaos as usual. But I don't think Villa want to push out there and say, right, we're going to spend all this money on all these players, because that just weakens their position, totally dilutes their position on any kind of negotiation table, because if they're willing to spend more than other teams, it's going to affect anything they do.
One of those stones that doesn't look like it's been rolled at the moment, I don't want to dwell on this one too much, is that Jadon Sancho will stay at Dortmund, according to their club sporting director. The obvious talking point here is that, we have to mention it. Like I said, I don't want to dwell on it. What does this non-deal now mean for Man United and Jack Grealish? Hopefully nothing.
Not a hell of a lot, to be honest. It's like, if there's a world that exists where both players play for Manchester United, it's not one I want to imagine at all, to be honest, because I don't want them having Jadon Sancho for one, because that is going to highlight Manchester United bloody going back to the top of everything. But also them buying Jack Grealish and having Jadon Sancho at the same time annoys me, frankly annoys me. Fair play to them. But as a Villa fan, you don't want to imagine Jack Grealish going in. I don't know if the Sancho deal has much bearing at all on whatever they choose to do with Jack Grealish, because they're both different players at the end of the day, and they can both do good things at a big club, as Grealish is doing at Villa. Means nothing. Like at the end of the day, they could sign both, they could sign neither. Until it happens, it happens.
Didn't their sporting director once say that one of their players wasn't leaving categorically as well, and then the following season he was gone? Like, these things happen. It's all part of the game, isn't it? You do have to say, we want to hold on to this player, but it doesn't really mean anything ultimately.
You have to bluff. You have to send out kind of full support. You have to do whatever you can to strengthen your position. Holding on to, as Villa deserve with Jack Grealish, as Blues deserve with Jude Bellingham, you deserve top dollar for the players you've produced, or developed. Like Jadon Sancho moved from City to Dortmund and has developed there. You deserve top dollar for that work. So they deserve any tactic they can use to kind of get the most amount of money possible. Good for them, because if it's good for them, it's also good for Villa.
We're going to move on now to some viewer questions that I got from Twitter. There's 3 that I wanted to go through here, but obviously I knew we'd be live, so if anyone's got any questions you want to ask, you can do so. We'll be here for another 10 minutes probably, because I am starting to melt. The first one that we had yesterday came through from Omar. I know that we've kind of talked about this off air a little bit to prepare. Who is the best value for money signing Aston Villa have made in the last 10 years?
Ross McCormack.
Those police are coming for you, mate, with answers like that.
I don't know, they've heard the bad take already. The bad take cops on their way.
There's one name that instantly springs to mind that I think everyone would agree on. John Mcginn. 2.5-3 million. Absolutely no need to say any more about that one whatsoever. But besides that, are there any more left field shouts that you can think of? I've got 2 more names.
It depends on what you term value for money, because if you term fee divided by appearances, you're going to give Ashley Westwood and Leandro Bacuna a good shout. Fair play to Westwood, but Bacuna was clearly not getting on very well at Villa or towards the end. The first season's all right, banging in those free kicks on the wing, but when you move to centre back, right back up front, and you're saying things about Champions League, it's probably not value for money in the way fans want. Like if you pay,
my thoughts on Leandro Bacuna.
But I think Westwood's a good shout. Benteke, I don't know, because you go back and it's the way fees change, right?
Yeah, I thought Benteke as a kind of a left field a little bit of a wild card, because you look at that and think 8 million and think value for money for me means cheap as well, because bring in a cheap player and they kind of overperform, and Benteke does that at 8 million and we sell him for a decent profit and his goals keep us in the Premier League. So value for money, yes, that does make sense. A similar one that I saw as a reply on Twitter was James Chester, and again I thought, well, 8 million for a centre back, but he offered us a great deal for the club, and obviously now has moved to Stoke permanently as well, and we wish him all the best if he's watching, which he isn't. So yeah, maybe, but I think they're a little bit more questionable. I like the ones that are kind of at 1 million, 2 million, 3 million.
Yeah,
as
absolute
more
bargains in any window, because I think I remember going Fabian Delph, but he was £8 million as like a teenager, which is like, that's quite expensive. Then there's Ashley Young, it was only 2 million less than Stuart Downing, which was fairly expensive at the time.
And you're talking 15 years ago at this point.
Carew probably swapping Barosh, who had kind of been come to the end of his stay at the club, getting Carew. It's like, that speaks to me as great value. John McGinn takes cake though. I was going to say Martin Larson, but 3 million for a defender kind of not playing a lot with injury issues. It's in 2003-4 is like that is what you'd expect to pay for him. And he only had like one full season as well, right? So I don't think. I mean, for the memories, yes, but for what you got out of him, I don't know.
There's two that haven't been mentioned that are still at the club. That again I've seen on Twitter, so I'm not being totally crazy with offering these two. Conor Hourihane. His fee is widely reported as being anywhere from 1 to 3 million. Even if it is 3 million, I'd still have him on this list. If it's 1 million, yes, it's an absolute bargain. He's played in every division. I think his character shows that he's a winner. Whether he's got the ability to be a top end Premier League footballer or a consistent 38 game a season Premier League footballer, I'm not so sure. But I think for when you're building a squad, I think somebody with the mentality of Conor Hourihane is someone that you'd want in there. And the other name is El Mohamed for 1 million. Again, not the most flashy player, and someone that at stages in his career I've not particularly rated. But I think overall, you're looking at a player that has been fairly consistent in his time. He's been there in some of the big moments. He's contributed in some big moments with assists for important goals. Not like I said, not kind of flashy, but steady and comfortable and capable.
Yeah, not horrific signings at all. I think you could even any players you get in for a free that you use fairly well who's still playing at Premier League level. Dare I say it, like Neil Taylor as well. You get use out of these players. For him, Jordan Ayew hurts, but to get a player in for essentially nothing, right? And he's performing at Premier League level, not to the highest standard, right? But like, that's still value, isn't it? Like it's like saying Bakuna. It's all these players fall into this little pit of value where you get a fair bit out of them for the cost, which is kind of minimal. But then again, you could say, would you say Lewis Grabban on loan, following us to the playoffs?
Yeah, but loan isn't value for money. It's good,
but you don't buy him, are you? You're just getting like killing Sunderland season off and getting loads of goals.
Yeah, true. Yeah, fair point.
Snodgrass. Could go on all day.
All right. When I thought about it, I was like, last 10 years, and I instantly went back to thinking about, Ashley Young, blah, blah, blah. But they were more than 10 years ago, by the way. Let's not forget Martin Larson, the names you've just picked. This question was 10 years only, mate, so you fail. The second question we had was from a guy called Ryan. I can't remember his surname. I've not written it down. 2-part question. What are the short-term and long-term goals for the club? And I'll let you answer this first, because I've already got my answer.
Short term, getting Neil Taylor on a 6-year deal to start in the club. He's a good guy. He's a good guy, man. Short term goals: staying up, progressing under the play style, keeping that stability. With everything that's going on, stability is so important. Making sure they're getting the most out of the coaching staff, making sure they're getting the most out of Dean Smith, making sure he can perform at the best of his abilities. Keeping Jack Grealish maybe one. Although I do feel like if Grealish goes, it unlocks a lot of options for Villa that may not be palatable, considering Grealish going to unlock them in the first place. But I feel like if you bring in some real firepower, if he is to go, and that's the reason why you are able to do so, that's pretty cool. But I'd say keeping hold of Grealish would be a very key goal. Long term, has to be European football. We have to be getting knocked out by CSKA Moscow in a quarter-final again. We have to be getting to that level. Like, we have to just be having that excitement.
Mate, I'll take Rapid Vienna in the knockout round at this point.
Yeah, send us out in the first qualifying round just as long as one of it, like we went to Austria. Like, that's honestly fine with me.
I think I've written down immediate short term, stay in the Premier League. So that's take 17th next year if that's what it means. You just cannot go back into the Championship at any point for the short term. A little bit further than short term, so mid-term, I guess, is kind of establish yourself in the Premier League and get around that 12th, 13th, 11th place and be comfortable for a year or two, if that's what it takes. And like you said, long term, you get back into European competition as soon as you can. Whether that's, what do you class as long term? Is that 5 years in football?
Yeah, 5 to 7 years, I think, is long. I
mean, it sounds like a long time away, isn't it?
Keeping on a manager for 2 seasons is like long time, like these days. So yeah, the next 3, 5, 7 years, in that time frame, seriously progressing in instalments would be a very positive move. Developing in the same way Copenhagen, I've been a leader, getting getting new positions in, kind of refining and revolutionising, questioning what football means at a business level, what it means at a psychological level, at a tactics level, kind of pushing yourself onto that forefront in the way that Copenhagen and other teams like Brentford were able to do, kind of find that little niche you can exploit, would be another good short-term goal. But in the next 3 to 5 to 7 years, kind of getting those little instalments in of improving, hopefully a cup win in the next 10. Give me a cup in the next 10 years, man. Give me some silverware. To be honest, any silverware. I don't want no pre-season ones though. Just a good trophy.
The Peace
Get
Cup.
us that good trophy. If we're to play like if Liverpool win the league and FA Cup and we're the finalist, win that Community Shield, man. Like, just give it just something, man.
Does the Community Shield count? I don't think it does.
I didn't think it did for a long time, but you see the heft of that thing, man. Like, and that, that one we won at Burton, that massive one, serious trophy that, and the Cup of Traditions, that big one. But the Community Shield absolutely counts me. If Villa win it, nobody's taking that away from me.
All right, fair enough. The last question I've got on my list is, who could we be looking at this time next year as having a breakthrough season for Aston Villa? Not a new signing, somebody that is currently in the squad now, and this time next year we're going, I can't believe how much X has developed in that time.
You feel like everyone's kind of had a breakthrough season though. Like Target was a little bit better than expected. Gilbert a little bit better than expected. Konza kicked on. Mings, Mcginn, Arahan. I mean, we need a striker. We need Wesley to have a breakout. If we're completely honest, it has to be the striker in the team who's looking to recover. It has to be Wesley. Yeah,
but not one of the kids, Vasilev, maybe? Louis Barry?
I feel like this wouldn't be the season where you're putting in a youngster until it's a foregone conclusion when you confirm you're staying up. The season's set. There's 3 or 4 games left. Louis Barry's on the bench. Like, it'd be hard to see. I'd love that to happen. Breaking out and exploding. But I feel like most of the players we set to have a breakout season, Louise, Harahan, Konza, whomever, Target, Gilbert, probably already have had that breakout season. If I'm totally honest. Yeah,
fair. That's the extent of my notes, so I'm going to scroll back up through the comments because there was a couple of questions from earlier. Gary Oakley says, why hasn't James opened his window yet?
To give you guys the best possible sound quality at the expense of my life expectancy.
Mate, there's so much noise going on outside. I've had to shut mine as well, and I've got the door shut, and it's sweltering in here. So this is what we do. This is what we do for the quality of the sound. But it is very, very hot. Comment underneath that from Leo. Is it? Yeah, Leo James. Considering the defensive record last season, do you worry at the lack of talk around new defensive targets?
I'm not so sure.
It is quite quiet.
Talk doesn't matter, though, does it? Like, if we're being completely honest, it's like if Villa's trying to defend it, it'll probably come out of nowhere. If to people like Wesley last season, it'll just be one of those deals where it is reported, like Nakamba in Nigerian pressing, people go, no, it means nothing because it's coming from Nigeria, and it happens. Stuff like that. Like, I wouldn't be too concerned about a lack of talk right now. There's still a long time to go. People who know the transfer window aren't predicting major moves until September starts. So let's be real with it. It'll probably happen. We probably won't know about it until it actually happens, though.
I quite like that though. I like it. I want Villa to operate in that way where a signing comes out of nowhere. I don't want to hear rumours, and I know part of me feels like, yes, it's nice that when you invested in this and the social media world and whatever else, it's nice to know everything about the club. But I feel like there's an element of almost, I don't know, like class maybe or something like that. That is, I like the idea of Villa being kind of under the radar and just getting on with it and like, right, we've signed this player, here's what you need to know, we're ready for the Premier League. I don't kind of like the circus, if you like, of a transfer window. It doesn't really appeal to me.
It's obviously not my job to cover rumours, and I saw, and there was a good conversation on Twitter going, why aren't this and that first to rumours? Why does it always have to come out of left field? I feel like giving the best possible picture of a rumour, why it fits, why it doesn't fit, why it works, why it's possibly come out, just making Villa fans understand, kind of have the full picture. It's kind of the best thing you can do with a rumour. But look, most people said a lot of moves come out of the left field last season. I think only a few did, because Konza was linked, Nakamba was linked, Tyrone Mings, El Ghazi, a lot of Villa signings last season, Trezeguet, were linked before they were made. It was only a few solid ones that come out left field, especially Wesley. Yeah. So you will see, there will be some of these that have truth, but I don't think there'll be much right now, with so much depending on that first club making a big move and setting things in motion.
Holly says, "Oh God's sake, how much I missed." About half an hour, Holly. Yeah. So. Yeah, not great from you there. If people are listening to this after the fact, we do these on Facebook Live, so that's the first place you can listen to the podcast and get involved in the comments and ask us questions directly. But anyone else who's listening to this after the fact, or if you're listening to this for the first time, we're also available on Spotify, iTunes, Acast, whatever podcast provider you prefer. And we're also on YouTube, where you can see our lovely faces, our lovely hot sweaty faces today. James, you look particularly pink and red on your screen.
We got to go, man.
So just search Claret and Blue or Claret and Blue podcast, and you should be able to find us wherever you prefer. Any more questions while we've been waffling on there? Not really. It's pretty quiet, to be honest. I think people are quite satisfied that we've covered everything, which shows that we've done a good job preparing our notes for a change.
Done a brilliant job, haven't we?
We've got all the questions sorted beforehand. So yeah, while we kind of wrap up, if there's any more last minute questions, you've now got about 30 seconds to get them in. James, have you enjoyed our little chat this afternoon?
I have, but my body temperature, like I'm fading out, it's boiling in here.
Yeah, it's a joke, isn't it? So I think we'll probably call it a day, because it looks like it's dried up a little bit. We'll be doing these Facebook Lives to react to any breaking news that happens from now until the end of the transfer window, so you'll be happy to know you can see and listen to us whenever something happens. Until then, we'll be here to chat about all the latest rumours and whether Ollie Watkins is at the Belfry or not, and silly things like that. And until next time, I think we'll call it a day. James, thank you very much for joining me. Get those windows open, get a drink down you.
I'm dying, man. Yeah, we'll get it open. Thank you. Yeah, thanks everyone for joining in. It's been another solid chat, to be honest.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. It's nice to go through the latest news and rumours. Gary Oakley says, go and sit in a fridge, James.
Got a chest freezer, I might lock myself in.
So we'll end on that note. Thanks everyone for tuning in. We'll be back maybe next week, maybe this week if you're lucky, if something happens. We'll see you then. Thanks for watching. Awkward Waves. Bye-bye, everyone.
See ya.
Thank you for listening to Claret and Blue, an Aston Villa podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, then please let us know. We love hearing your feedback. We'll be back soon with another episode. Until then, up the Villa.